Hi guys, this is the Audiofool, and for today, we're going to review the KEF R3 speakers. What I like the most about the KEF R3 is that it's like an LS50 but with bass. They sound similar, it's just a bit more polite. And it's very gorgeous as well, and you wouldn't mistake this to be a cheap speaker. And while it is a much larger bookshelf than the LS50s, the bass is much larger as well, and this baby can do 40 Hz. The bass is deep and solid without being overbearing. And for the price class, it does all of the frequencies very well and has a very balanced sound overall, making it great for analytical listening. What I don't like about the KEF R3 is that it's a bit hard to drive as it goes down to 3.2 ohms minimum, so you'll need a powerful amp to maximize the speaker. Though if you can spend $2,000 on speakers, you probably already have a similarly capable amp. And not much as technically. On a subjective matter though, I don't like that it doesn't sound exactly like an LS50s because the LS50s for me still sounds a bit more engaging. The vocals and mids are more aggressive and forward and more to my taste. As I find the KEF R3s to be a bit tame and boring, to be honest, for my personal taste. That said, someone there might find the LS50s to be a bit too fatiguing, and the KEF R3s might be the perfect speaker for them, so I've been audio-fooled. A good boy all around, but I want a bad boy. If you want to know more details about the comparison, please keep on watching. The KEF R3 is a luxurious looking speaker. This one is in gloss black, such a treat for fingers everywhere. It's big and hefty, weighing almost 30 pounds, and it's a three-way speaker which is quite rare for bookshelves. You have the UniQ concentric driver tweeter up top, and an aluminum 6-inch woofer to add more heft to the lows, which goes down to 38 Hz in paper. Unlike the LS50s, these have no curves, and these are just a boxy box, not even tapered, so it's not really sexy or exotic. But even the top-end reference one is as boxy as well, so I suppose this isn't really a big deal for KEF. At the back, you have the port and biampable binding posts, and best of all, no jumpers to lose if you decide to go aftermarket. Sensitivities average around 87 dB, so should be no issue with wattage, though you'll need a 3 ohm capable amp. First, we compared to the original KEF LS50s using the Shit Agier and Yggdrasil, and as expected, the bass was a lot better in the bigger R3 and easily preferred in bass-intensive tracks. Having similar UniQ drivers would make you think that it should easily trounce the LS50s everywhere else, but for vocal tracks, I still preferred the LS50s as it was more forward and a bit richer, although not by much. So for the electronica and orchestra genres, I feel it would be better handled by the R3, while jazz, vocals, and acoustics would suit the LS50s. As for rock, well, I think it depends on whether you want it livelier or heavier. I do feel it more with the LS50s though. In terms of bass, the R3 has a dedicated woofer in a bigger box, so it makes bigger bass. And not just bigger bass, but really good bass, not overpowering, with taut sound and details. And it goes low for bookshelves, doing the third note in Trials of the Past with equal volume. Piano notes are slightly richer in the LS50s, not by a lot, but it's still noticeable enough. Textures are similar with the R3s though, despite having that extra gravy. Vocals are slightly more forward in the LS50s, projecting a bit closer to you. Treble has more sparkle on the LS50s and has a sharper bite. In terms of clarity though, both speakers seem to be in the same level if you can tolerate the extra bite of the LS50s. Soundstage is just so slightly wider in the R3s and also slightly deeper. There's a bit more layering in the R3s. Separation and space between instruments are more or less the same, and both similarly seem to be as quiet. They look similar and sound similar, but not exactly alike. There's no question about bass though. That is definitely what is missing with the LS50s, and the R3s more than make up for it. In terms of SRP, the difference you're paying, I personally feel it's a very good deal just for that extra bass.
And if you're happy with 40 Hz, you don't even need the sub. There's just a little bit of difference in the higher frequencies though, as the R3s for me are somewhat more polite, somewhat feeling held back, while the LS50s are a bit more upfront and a bit more outspoken. So I feel that I'm choosing between Jaime and Tyrion Lannister. You might have your favorites and I have mine, but I don't think you can really go wrong with either. But I have my favorite.
Next, we compared to the Harbeth P3ESR using the Shit Yggdrasil and Roxanne Black. Now this entry-level Harbeth is quite small, but don't let the size fool you. The latest XD version is actually more expensive at more than $3,000. And that extra cost is something that goes into the sound, as I only prefer the R3 in 2 out of 5 tracks. And more or less, if the track is bass extensive, the R3 comes out on top. Same goes for music genres, the bass is just a lot more, though if you don't really care about the bass, then the Harbeth would be a better call. The Harbeth is not only a sealed box, but it's a tiny sealed box, so it really won't make a lot of bass, so just forget about the piano notes at the last octave. The R3 on the other hand is simply fantastic, and while it also won't do the last notes, it goes much lower and deeper. Mids, however, are richer, more detailed, and more forward in the Harbeth. Highs are more extended in the R3s and sound a little bit brighter. On the other hand, the Harbeth sound clearer and surprisingly have a slightly wider and deeper soundstage. Instruments are more separated not only because of this extra spacing, but also because the Harbeth sounds cleaner and forms instruments better.
The current model P3ESR XD is more expensive at retail, but if you're lucky, you can find this model P3ESR without the XD used for just about the same price as a brand new KEF R3 at SRP. And you'd get a lush speaker which is sure to satisfy most listeners with small rooms who prioritize vocals. The KEF R3s on the other hand, it gives a more balanced, more neutral sound, and it does bass. And arguably more realistic because for me the Harbeths, while they do sound more soothing and more engaging, they also sound a little bit too smooth to be true for me. Or maybe perhaps it's the other way around. Well, what matters the most is what you hear and like. Thank you for watching and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments or suggestions, just write them down below. See you in the next video.